old to be that of their girls. After meeting the IGP, we'll hear from them as they maintain only an independent DNA test will be the way to prove the death of the relatives.
You could see that they are grown-up skeleton. This skeleton, when you saw it, you see like almost about 15 to 10 year skeleton. It's not something like a year or 6 months. No. We don't believe that skeleton is for us.
Police insist the proper procedures must be followed for an independent test to be conducted.
I am not a scientist to be able to tell how old skeletal remains are or not. They are always at liberty to have a second test done. They should only follow the law.
Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready. Gassem Cement, the nation builder, and Antarte Furniture, designed for life. The scene today when families of the missing girls eventually met the IGP today as they laid their hands on the bones of their missing girls who are now, as we know, have been declared dead. Now, the girls have now been, and as we know, they saw the bones, but they had concerns. They insist the bones are too old to be that of Rudolph Kwesing, Priscilla Bintum, and Priscilla Mantibia Crunchy. After several complaints about not seeing the DNA results and the remains of the girls, they were given an unfettered access to the bones. Now, the Deputy Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, Sheila Abeye Bachman, briefed the media after the meeting.
So their first point was about the skeletal remains, which they wanted to see, and they have been conducted round, they have been briefed, they asked all questions they wanted to ask. In fact, to the point that there are some non-biological items which some people identified as could belong to some of the victims. And then the bit about the reports, IGP said yes, they could get the reports, but it's a matter of procedure. So at the right time, per the right procedure, they will get the reports. And then the third point about having a second opinion, IGP said yes, they are always at liberty to have a second test done. They should only follow the law. And that at the time of taking the sample, a police officer will be there for them to take the sample because the remains are in the custody of the police now, and that they can do that per the lawful procedure. The bit about the case involving allegation of police officers aiding the escape of suspects, IGP said that yes, police discipline procedure takes some time. And so by all means, they are undergoing the procedure. I think it's at the trial stage. And so after the end of the trial, they will know which police officers were guilty or not and the punishment that would be leveled against them. And the thing about pronouncements made by certain officers, the IGP said he is the head of the service. He apologized for all pronouncements that they see are in bad taste. Going forward, the objective is to secure justice, to secure conviction of all perpetrators involved in this. And so we expect the family to help in doing that, to which the family also agreed. Investigation is different from prosecution. Police, we are investigating, and the process has not ended. And it will not end until prosecution has taken over totally and every evidence. I am not a scientist to be able to tell how old skeletal remains are or not. To be honest, they were given all the opportunity to ask all the questions. There were two pathologists, including a civilian pathologist who was called to also be part of the process, and there was a DNA expert. So I believe that the questions they asked were answered. So the bit about whether the eye can tell how old skeletal remains are, that I cannot answer.
But this is what members of family said after they were given the opportunity to see the remains today.
You could see that they are grown-up skeleton. This skeleton, when you saw it, you see like almost about 15 to 10 year skeleton. It's not something like a year or 6 months. No. And then the panties and then the dress that we saw, there's nothing like maybe with Love Crazy's own in it. Do you get it? So we don't believe that skeleton is for us. Now the police administration, they are not the final say. They are not the final say. They are not final say, and they can never be a final say. We have diplomatic in this country, which we need to serve them letters, which we have to invite them to come in our aid, to come and support us to have one common justice. So that this thing, because as I'm speaking to you, if this thing is going this way, that means I am not safe and you are not safe. Is it the country that we are building? But 18 years, 17 years, when you see skeleton, you can see that, this one, it looks like a bit younger and stuff, but you see the teeth and then the skeleton, and you could find that, this thing, that, they have this thing, human hair, and the human hair that you could see, you see that human hair, it looks a bit, convincing. But none of them, or for me, the Ruth Love Crazy, moving from the house, the last time I saw her, I could see that there's nothing that shows that the human hair belongs to Ruth Love Crazy.
So you don't believe the remains?
You see, the dresses and stuff, if they have something similar, you could accept that one. But looking up to the skeleton, you could see that it doesn't click at all.
I had a family spokesperson there, Michael Hayford Grant, speaks for the family. My colleague, Western Regional Correspondent Natalia Kwanzaa, traveled with the 16-member delegation that met the IGP, and she joins me on the telephone line right now. Just curious, you were part of the delegation that came to meet the IGP. Did you yourself manage to see the skeletons?
When we got to the police hospital, all the media guys were asked to stay behind, even with the discussion with the IGP. The 1-hour discussion is what the closed door discussion. So when we got to the mortuary, they asked us to stay behind, but the families, all the 16, went inside and saw the bones for themselves. When they came out, their view was that those bones does not belong to the family. They saw that the bones there are 3 years, 2 years, 4 years older, and it doesn't look like any of the 3 girls of the 3 families. Now one of the family has already accepted, that is the Franche family. They've already accepted that the DNA test by police is authentic. So the 3, which is the Quaisons, the Bentum, and the Ruth Abeka family, they are the ones saying that they do not accept the DNA test from the police. So they went inside and saw it, and they disputed that those bones are not their daughters. There was some dresses and panties and beads which was also shown. According to them, none of those things belong to their daughters.
Have they sent the bones back to the Western region yet?
Evans, what they felt was going to be a fruitful journey turned out to be a disappointment, because the IGP told them that he cannot give them the bones because it is very crucial in this case, since the case is still in court. And if they really need the bones, they need to go for a court order before he gives them the bones.
So what you're saying is they were just allowed to see the bones, but they could not take the bones away.
Yes, Evans, they couldn't take the bones away.
Okay. Did they tell you whether, apart from seeing the bones, we heard from the police that said they brought in other individuals where they could ask questions and interrogate the officers and the police itself. How close was the examination? How close were they allowed to examine these bones? Did they give an indication of that?
But Evans, we weren't allowed to go inside the media. But from what they told me, they said they were allowed to see the bones. They saw it. They were when they had to ask for the other exhibits like the panties and the dresses. They were allowed to see it, so they had a close look at the bones.
Are they back in the Western region yet?
No, Ellis, we are on the way to the Western region, but I have with me here Michael Hayford, who speaks to the family. So we go over and talk to him now.
We'll talk to the spokesperson. He is Michael Hayford. He speaks for the family. Heard him talk earlier, just at the police headquarters, just when after they've managed to see the bones. Hello, Mr. Hayford.
Yes, please.
From what I hear, you are on your way back to the Western region.
Yes, please.
And my reporter just told us that you were not allowed to take the bones with you. Was it your expectation coming to Accra that the police will allow you to take the bones back to the Western region?
We are very disappointed. In the first place, we came all the way from Takoradi just to come and retrieve the remains, but we couldn't get it. So we are very disappointed.
Tell me, I'm assuming you were in the meeting with the IGP and also saw the bones for yourself.
Yes, please.
Okay. What official explanation did the police give you for not allowing you to take the remains with you?
They made us know that we made a request, and our request is to get the official report, as in the satisfied report, and at the same time to have a look of the skeletons that they are talking about, and if possible, to have it so that we can also go for either second opinion or either we go and bury the skeletons. Do you get it? But they were like, since we did not agree that the report is genuine to us, they can never give us the skeletons. And at the same time, they are saying that because the issue will be pending in court, they can never give us the report unless we get court order before we can have the report. And then secondly, we also asked them to go and have a look of it. That one, they gave us opportunity to go and have a look of the skeleton. And nothing looks like the people, the girls that we were looking for, the girls that they have disappeared in our society.
I hear you say that, but how do you know? How did you come to that conclusion that they don't look like the girls that you know?
But I know Ruth Lavcation very well, and then I know that if you see a skeleton that looks like someone that you know, you can identify it. But this one, if you see the skeleton, it tells you that skeleton, it has been in that police custody for either the mortuary for some years. If I'm not lying to you, I can say by more than 5 years. If I'm not lying to you, I can say it's more. That skeleton has been there more than 5 years.
And what is it that you saw about the skeletons that makes you say that?
You see, how do I put it? Let me say, you could see it.
I think we've lost him. We'll try and reconnect. They're traveling to the Western region tonight on the way from the police headquarters, the police hospital as well. They've met with the IGP. They are disappointed because they were expecting that the police will hand the remains to the family. So they do one or two things. Either they bury the remains, or they have a second opinion on the testing that had been done by the police. Obviously disappointed there. We'll reconnect with him right now, but let's bring in security analyst Mr. Adams Bonner. Mr. Bonner, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Do you sympathize with the family? They're disappointed.
Obviously, yes, I am sympathized with the family. The victims' family, I sympathize with them, and so I would hope that the state is able to bring a proper closure to this issue that has engulfed all of us for the last 1 year or more events.
But the police explanation, from what I've just heard, why they haven't handed the bones over, is that this case is still in court and they will need it. That justifiable, correct?
Yes, it's justifiable. Yes, it is. It's right, because if you realize, I think some of the suspects have been charged with additional charges of human trafficking. And so until these guys who have been, police custody are properly, either asked to go home, no charges against them, or, prosecuted and maybe sentenced, this case probably would travel for some time. And if they have lawyers and, representing them at any given point, the lawyers might want to have this human remains, re-examined. And so if these human remains are released in the form they are at the moment to the family, what happens? Because they might have to, they want to bury their relations, which I believe is what should be happening. But this is a homicide case. The police is prosecuting, the Attorney General is prosecuting. And so I think the family, there has to be some clinical psychologist by now talking to them and letting them understand that it is not really about them at the moment. It's about seeking justice for the victims who have met their untimely death in the hands of the suspect who are in police custody. There might be other suspects who are on the loose. And so I would probably urge the families to be more circumspect, because then anything they do, they might be doing that for their own sake, but probably thinking they are doing it for the victims. But the victims, we need, all of us need to call for justice for these victims. And so if they take these human remains and it ends up that there's a botched, this case hangs, there is no proper prosecution, or they were not able to prosecute, the police weren't able to prosecute, where do we go from there? So we've got to be careful. The family would have to tone down and allow the state to take charge of this case and make sure these suspects are, they face the full rigors of the law.
I want to bring in Rhys Kwesing. He is father of Ruth Love Kwesing, one of the three girls who also, died in the process after they were kidnapped for a while. Mr. Kwesing, thank you for your time here on Top Story. Hello, Mr. Kwesing. Mr. Kwesing, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Fantastic. You were part of the delegation, I assume, that came to meet the police here in Accra. What's your own reaction to what you saw and witnessed today?
Yeah, that's good. Everything seems to me as a liar, because the person at the bones, it looks like old bones. And at the same time, it doesn't even look like 18 years or something like that, especially my daughter. Yeah, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you. And tell me, how closely were you allowed to examine the bones?
Yeah, because you see, we were called into the room, and when we went there, the bones were laid. The bones were laid on the table. The three different kinds. And after that, they proved to us that this is food cases, this is Tesla, and this. But they call us to identify, especially the family. So when we went there, we found out that I know my daughter. This is not the type of or the shape of my daughter. You see, one thing amazing is that someone who has been drowned or who has been drowned or taken out from the well. It should be something different. Something different is that they were all ladies, and the lady, they got some feet. I know you know the one around the waist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they make it through thread, white thread. It's not mica. It's that ordinary thread. There should be some sign which may tell you that from
unfortunately, because of the terrible quality of the line, we have to end it there, and you can understand they are now traveling to the Western region on the road. It's so difficult to appreciate what the details of what he's saying, but it begs the question, what is the family going to do now? It appears that they will have to wait for a while before they can even lay their their hands on the bones. They have indicated that they want to carry their own independent test on these bones. But now that they've left without the bones, what is it that they plan to do now? That's a difficult question. We'll try and see if we can get them on the better line. We can ask them that. But let me go back to Adam Bona, who's still with me on the line. Mr. Bona, so isn't it possible, though, because the families are grieving, they are in a real hard place, isn't it possible for the police, while still having custody of these bones, allow the family to choose and bring in their own independent pathologist and conduct this independent test within the police facility under the watchful eye of the family? Isn't that a possibility as well?
Well, I don't speak for the police, and I believe the police forensic scientists who conducted this test and the CID, the police in general, probably would have to answer to it. But the best, what I think, the best practice is until this case, there is finality brought to this case. The family at this moment cannot do much because this is a criminal case, and therefore once it's a criminal case, it is the state against whoever is suspected to have committed the crime. And so yes, we can all understand, I understand the victims' families, but like I said earlier on, this case is no longer about the families of these victims. It is seeking justice, absolute justice for these victims. Anything we do that will seek to jeopardize, how this case is brought to finality is something that I believe would be very, very unfair to these victims who are today deceased because they aren't there to speak for themselves, and therefore is a reason why we put somebody we call the state. And so the state at this moment would have to represent them. And so I think that the police would have to dialogue with them, get them clinical psychologists who would have to help them, assist them, go through the process of healing and accepting the fact that what has happened is their family. And I believe that if this case is brought to finality and probably they want their family, they want to do some re-examination of a sort, then I believe that that might be permissible. But I believe that some lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe some lawyers might be able to speak adequately to this. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a criminal case against the suspect who are in police custody at the moment. And yes, the families are grieving, and we should allow them to grieve, but give them a lot of support. But they should tone down with some of the requests they put together, they put forward, or else the way they go about it. Because remember, these guys who are, these suspects are in police custody, and they're still facing court. So, had an agenda.
It's a difficult balancing act. I also want to now, I'm happy to see I've just been joined on the line by Dr. Richmond Afakwa. He's the head of forensic department of the University of Cape Coast. Dr. Afakwa, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you very much, Alan.
So this is where we are. The families finally saw the bones. They believe the bones are too old to be that of their family, dead family, relatives. The question is, the police said they had done with the forensic DNA testing, etc. They've declared categorically that those are the bones of the girls. Aren't they obliged to release the bones now, the remains, to the family? What's your unexpected view on this?
I thought the IGP some time ago made that announcement that the family members could come forward for the bones. So I am quite surprised that the family members are saying they are seeing the bones for the first time, because I thought once the police announced that they were done with the DNA tests and the results came out to be that of the girls, they will quickly take steps as major stakeholders in this case, quickly take steps to visit the police, go to where the bones are, look at the bones. I mean, over a month down the line, they are going to see the bones now. I don't know, but I think they are. Sorry, I'm driving. I'm parking now. Okay, so I'm parked. I believe that the family members have taken quite too long to go to check on the bones. And if they have done this quite...
But it appears that timeline has been dictated by the police. It's just recently they've just been invited now to come and see. They say when they were coming, they were under the understanding that they were going to take the bones along.
They didn't need the invitation. They just needed to go to the IGP and request to see the bones. Because right after the police announced that the DNA test proved to be that of the girls, they needed to just go and see the bones. You see, Evans, these things have taken us taken a lot of our time. You understand? And from the point we have reached, from where we started, and the point we have reached now, it is about time that the family members make very informed decisions going forward. You understand? Coming into the media, outrightly say that the bones, after looking at the bones look like they are 4 years old. With all those, one would want to understand and grieve with them. I mean, it has always been a case of sympathizing with the family. But this is the time the family would have to take very informed decisions. You see, coming out into the media all the time will not help this case.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying that it's not possible for the untrained eye to see the bones as if I've seen them today and conclude this can be my relative? Is that not possible?
No. You see, these bones were not. First and foremost, nobody has been able to prove exactly how the girls were killed and how their bodies decayed within the period, and all that was left were bones after the police located the bones. You understand? Nobody has been able to tell exactly the process that went on at the time. So one is not able to tell, in the state of the bones as they are now, one is not able to tell what happened, what accounted for the bones to look the way they look. You understand? So just telling outrightly that these are not the girls, it's not right.
And the question, are they entitled to the bones as of right, where we are in the process of investigating this? Are they entitled to it?
In my personal opinion, they are. But once they come out with the denial that those are not the bones of their relatives, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but once they are out there saying that these are not the bones of our relatives, I don't know whether that strips them of the right to go for the bones. Because on one hand, you cannot say that these are not my relatives. On the other hand, you want to go for the bones. So on what locus are you going for the bones?
The argument is that they want to independently verify that particular detail with their own pathologist.
Exactly. That is exactly what we have been calling for from the one, that the family members should indeed go and verify to a certain opinion, of course.
But the police will not release the remains to them.
I'm not aware of this, so I can't comment.
Today they went to they met the IGP. They were in to see the bones. In fact, we just spoke to one of the fathers of the missing girls and a spokesperson. They said they came with the understanding that they'll get the bones so that either they bury or they do their tests. But they were only allowed to see, and they've left without the bones, and so they are disappointed. And that the IGP told them that until the process is complete, they cannot give the bones to them in terms of the case in court.
This is a time where the family members, as I said earlier, should make very informed decisions. This is the time where they should be seeking the advice of a legal practitioner, you understand, so that they know exactly what their rights are and what responsibilities they also have to the dead relatives of. Yes.
I'm grateful that you joined us. That is the head of the forensic department of the University of Cape Coast, joining us with his educated expert opinion on the matter. Newsnight starts right now.